Welcome, everybody. This is the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. Every week, we bring you the stories of people who are making the world better, doing that locally, globally, and digitally. We're part of Rotary International, over 1 million people across 36,000 plus clubs all over the planet. Rotaractors and Rotarians who believe in service above self, and that thought that if we get together and we share ideas and we share our time and energy and talent and treasure, that we can say, hey, we can make things a little better. That's what service above self is all about. Our particular focus in the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley is to highlight the stories of people who do this in all sorts of really interesting ways. And today we've got with us Shana Peete. And Shana is the Chief Executive Officer for the Center for Excellence in Nonprofits. She has a JD. She is a person who has practiced law for 8 years. She has had all kinds of wonderful community initiatives. And she also teaches tennis to students of all ages, which I think is on the very cool side. Shana, we are honored to have you speaking to us today. Welcome to the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. I hand the mic over to you.
Hello. Thank you so much for that introduction and for allowing me the space and time to be here with you all today. I'm super excited to share some of what I'm extremely passionate about, which is service to the community through the organization that I lead, Center for Excellence in Nonprofits, which you may also hear me refer to as CEN. I wanted to kick off by telling a bit about CEN's mission. We are when I'm kind of being, you know what? I put the cart in front of the horse. I want to start with the land acknowledgement. Excuse me. So I do love to take a moment and just acknowledge that I am on Ohlone land in the area of the Miwok, also in the area of the Chochenyo folks who walked and cared for and stewarded the land long before, modern times, and are still here and present. I want to uplift the fact that for the first time this year, CEN is going to be engaging in a donation to the Sigorite Land Trust, which is an effort to have folks of the Native community lead efforts to rematriate and heal the lands. And I'm really excited about that and wanted to just offer that as an opportunity and encourage others to look into it if you hadn't already. All right, and with that, I will go and talk about CEN's mission. All right, so CEN is an organization with a mission of encouraging, improving the long-term sustainability of nonprofit leaders in the organizations where they serve. We do that through our programming, which includes a bevy of 3-hour workshops for different topics within the nonprofit space and beyond, as well as cohort programs, some for executives, some for board members, to make sure that people feel equipped and supported as they enter the space of nonprofit work. And we do that through our consultation practice. And the consultation practice includes, things like strategic planning and having difficult discussions. Sometimes we just help organizations to navigate the trickiness of life that comes along with, 2024. So I'm very fortunate, I'm very fortunate to be able to lead this organization and to help folks who are out there making the world a better place, kind of what you said in your introduction, Rushton. And I really believe and have come to know that in supporting CEN, you're supporting a vibrant community of nonprofits. And those nonprofits are the backbone of our lives in the United States. And so once again, it's a privilege to serve. It's an opportunity for me today, hopefully, to tell you a bit about what that means in the grand scheme. What does it look like as we do our work? And I shared with you earlier, I love a good conversation. So if there are questions that you have or, thoughts that you have, I welcome you to bring them in. And I'm going to do the same for you if I have thoughts and questions for you all. I wanted to tell you a bit first about some of the organizations that we support. And I've got a few ideas in mind. I've got a few that surface to the top of recent work that we've done. I want to share work that we did with an organization out in Gilroy called Nueva Vida Community. And they are located in a lower income area where folks are living with diabetes, heart disease, obesity, all these different kinds of health and social issues that are very common. And Nueva Vida offers a space for folks to come together and they are able to do activities that improve the quality of life for area residents. So they have musical instrument lessons, Zumba classes, sports, sewing, like all these different things that bring people together in a once abandoned large space, building a large space. So what we were able to do at CEN was to go in and offer our boot camp. We have a boot camp that is 3-day intensive that helps people to know the nuts and bolts of how to lead a nonprofit. And sometimes you'll hear me say leader, sometimes it's the capital L, like the title, but other times it's just the people who show up ready to lend a hand and do the thing. But yeah, 3-day intensive, some of our most impactful workshops all put together. And at the end of the 3 days, you get a certificate of completion and you have a much stronger idea of the nonprofit landscape and how to do the work that you do, depending on your role. We were able to offer this in Spanish for the first time for Nueva Vida and really help make sure that we uplift their efforts to have each person in their community lift their voice up to shape what the collective is able to do, right? So what I would say is that we're learning, like we have our fingers on the pulse here at CEN for what leadership can look like at nonprofits. And a number of orgs have started moving into a shared leadership model. And we're all kind of like, what's this going to turn out to be? And we're learning things about, does it work? How does it work, et cetera. What was amazing about working with Nueva Vida is that they have a shared leadership model among many people. There were 30 people that were with me in that session, and they were able to demonstrate for us not only like a co-leadership model, but a community leadership model. And so really being able to go and have the opportunity to talk with them, understand how they communicate, understand how they address issues when they arise, and being able to inject what we've learned as leading practice from our perspective and being able to share with them tools that will help them to cultivate what they do and grow it and scale it. So that would be one nonprofit that I'd like to share about. Another would be Breastfeed LA, right? So they're located obviously in the Los Angeles area. They heard about CEN, and they are a nonprofit that serves organizations all over the United States, including the Bay Area, that is dedicated to improving the health and well-being of infants and families. They do that through education, outreach, and advocacy. And they do that in support of breast and chest feeding for healthy outcomes. And our team was able to serve as the convener of main sessions for their annual summit. And we were able to introduce what we refer to as IDEAL. IDEAL is inclusion, and you see it here in my background, but it's inclusion, diversity, equity, access, and liberation. And it is the foundation for the work that we do with clients at CEN, as well as the internal work that CEN strives to do day in and day out for ourselves, so that we hopefully can walk the walk and talk the talk. And I think that's one of the things that folks say really resonates with them about working with CEN. We are able to advise folks from a place of knowledge. When I'm being a little bit cheeky, I'll often say we're a nonprofit in the business of helping nonprofits nonprofit better. But we're right there in the trenches with folks as they're learning these lessons. So for Breastfeed LA, we brought IDEAL to the forefront and helped the folks that attended their summit, 300 or more people in person, as well as hundreds who were online as well, to be thinking about IDEAL as they look at the work that they do to make sure people breast and chest feed successfully. And I see a question here. I'm going to jump right in. Thank you for taking me up on my offer. Are there differences in teaching leadership roles and methods to volunteers versus employees, and what's the split? Great question. There are some things that we can say are just observations about how nonprofit works generally. And the funny thing about nonprofit as opposed to for-profit is that your leaders sometimes are volunteers. So board members are not paid. Yet they hold a strategic perspective and a leadership role in organizations in that they oversee executives. Employees, oftentimes, hopefully they're being paid for their work, but sometimes they're volunteer staff members. And for each group, there might be a different perspective. I always think about board members as having sort of a 30,000 foot view of what's going on at the organization. I look at the CEO as at about 5,000 feet, and the boots on the ground are the people who are the staff members really doing the work. And so you can talk about the truths of nonprofit, but also understand the different perspectives. And the great thing, like an executive is at that 5,000 foot level, they can swoop up to 30,000 to interact with the board and swoop down to be boots on the ground with the staff members. So it's a way for us to hold that mirror up so that they know, oh, wow, I was only thinking about it this way, but overall health of the organization depends on us thinking about it in every way. So that's a great question. Yeah, so with Breastfeed LA, we were able to hold space for what turned out to be a much needed and at times very charged conversation around the need for new approaches to support breastfeeding mothers and breastfeeding people to address the inequitable outcomes for Black, Brown, and lower income people. And that is not an easy conversation. But we found a way to hold a brave space, for people to speak their truth, offer their insights and perspectives, and also be able to receive perspectives from people with lived experience. And we help folks to understand how doing so can improve the conditions for all breast and chest feeding people and the babies that they care for. And yeah, we got great feedback about that, interactive energy that we brought to the conversation, where people honestly told us time and time again, look, my eyes were opened. I've been working in this industry for a while, and um, I never thought of the other perspective that you allowed us to kind of hold up to the light and share on, and to know that folks from 150 plus orgs from all over the United States are going to go back and say, okay, I have a different perspective. I have more tools in my toolkit. I have built community with organizations and leaders that were in that room because we had a frank and brave conversation. That's the beauty of what we do at CEN. When you support CEN, and that could be by your business, by coming and taking some of our workshops, or it could be by donating to support our bottom line. It has a ripple effect. And in supporting CEN, we're able to shape and to foster good relationship, good work, good high quality work in the nonprofit space. And that Breastfeed LA Summit and the feedback that we got from attendees and from the conveners of the summit just really underscored that for us. So any questions about that one before I move on to another example? All right, cool. Yeah, so one additional thing that I'm going to talk about is a program that we have, and it's sort of in three parts: building representative boards, board organizational preparedness program, and our match event. And those three programs are looking at nonprofit as a whole and working to understand how can we make sure that more people are at the table so that is representative, so that nonprofits are representative of the Bay Area and the United States as a whole. And we're having true representation from the different communities that are being served by these organizations at all levels. So building representative boards opens doors of accessibility to people who have been historically excluded from board service. And what we do is we help to make sure that they get leading practices, they get tools, and they get community and support from CEN and the wealth of people that we serve to know, hey, I can do this work. I know what the standard of that is expected of me in doing the work, and I can also bring my whole self to the work and the lived experiences that I can use to enrich, whatever mission that I'm in support of. One interesting fact, Leading with Intent has told us that somewhere between 82 and 84% of folks who serve on nonprofit boards identify as white. And that's shocking. I know it's an eyebrow, especially when you think about here in the Bay where it's so richly diverse. And when you think about just the numbers of, demographic numbers for the United States, that's an outsized proportion. When we start drilling down and we look at who is, formally educated and to what level, when we think about who's cis and heterosexual, who is, who may have a disability. If we think about all those different things within that 84%, when you start drilling it down, it's a real small community. that has been afforded the opportunity to lead nonprofits. CEN knows that we can do better. We can include more voices and more people. And so with building representative boards, that's what we're striving to do. We reach out to folks who are younger, folks who are of the global majority, people with disabilities, people who identify as being LGBTQ, and we let them know that they should be in the forefront of our field. On the other side, we have a program called Board Organizational Preparedness Program. And that program helps organizations who are open to bringing new energy and new life and diversity to their boards to be able to retain those folks, not only attract them, but retain them once they get there, right? And that's the tricky part. Anyone who has run a business, yeah, it's great to open the door and let people in, but you want them to feel like they belong. You want them to feel like they have voice. So we help them to understand the principles of ideal, to understand some of the power dynamics that exist when nonprofit boards look to recruit. And we ask that they reshape that for their organization and the field. Once we get through that experience with both of those groups, it culminates in a match event. And anyone who's ever been to a match event, it's kind of like speed dating in some ways, or else they just corral you into a big room and they're like, go at it, good luck. CEN does a lot of work to ensure that folks are prepared on both sides of the equation, that they understand that power dynamic, and that they're going to be mindful and they're going to be sensitive to how they can disrupt those patterns that have allowed our nonprofit space to just be overrepresented in so many areas and just under in so many other ones. And so we've had really, we're in our third iteration of the program. It's a little baby in our 30-year history at CEN. But we've already got folks who are on commissions. They are on boards. We have folks who are taking leadership roles. We have a few people that have signed on as governance chairs and chairs of the boards of different nonprofit organizations. And we're super excited to be able to afford that opportunity to the folks that support us. So what I would say is that, and I have an example. There's one organization right here in the Silicon Valley I want to talk about, Playful People Productions. They offer beginning to advanced theater for the whole family, which I think is just the coolest thing ever. I never did anything like that, but they get whole families involved in theater work, whether it's on the stage or behind the scenes. And giving the chance for people to do this who maybe historically have not had those opportunities. We were able to support their executive leader, Tanya Suker, through a roundtable program for executives that we had. That led us to be able to work with her and her organization's board in the Board Organizational Preparedness Program. And they were exploring how to diversify and how to engage and retain, like I mentioned, and participating in those programs as well as the match event connected them with another participant from our Building Representative Boards program, Tia Abner, who is just, she's phenomenal, a talented artist first and foremost, but she's also like bright, well-connected. She's just a fundraising professional. And every nonprofit, like I'm sure their eyes peaked up when you hear like, ooh, a nonprofit pro on our board. Yes. But she was able to join Playful People Productions. And we're watching as that relationship grows and deepens. And we're seeing how, even though they're based here in the Silicon Valley, Tia was a wonderful addition to their board, even though she's on the East Coast. And so it's been really great to kind of make those connections and see how they develop. I see a question here. How does a person get involved? Do they start by engaging at the nonprofit, or does CEN seek to recruit people who we feel like could add value to the nonprofits that we support? Fabulous question. I think it's yes, both and all. As you know, there's more than one way to do this nonprofit game, I always say. And you will have some people who, hey, I received your services. Now I'm back and I want to give back. You might have other people that say, I'm a community member. What can I do? Yeah, I've never been here before, but I want to try. They also may come to CEN, like through our Building Representative Boards program, where we help them think about, these are my values, these are my skills. Now what? What direction should I point them in? And we are able at times to just say, oh, we've got the organization for you. We know where to point those. And so we just value being able to show up and meet people where they're at, meet organizations where they're at. And there's space for all of those different things, Nick. Yeah. So I I just love what I do. I hope I've nerded out a little bit with you all today, but I could go on and on and on. But I just want to really underscore that supporting CEN just helps us increase the sustainability of nonprofits and all the different things that you care about, all the different causes that you care about here in the Silicon Valley and beyond, because I know your members are everywhere. By supporting CEN, it's the possibility of reaching those organizations and helping them to do what they do better.
All right. Shana, fantastic stuff. Now, as we look at this, I want to first actually introduce the group that we've got real quick. Our president in Vancouver, British Columbia, Nick. We've got our president-elect in Sacramento, Mike Kane. My name is Rushton. I'm the programs chair. I'm in San Jose. Shana, so many things about the approach are really, really interesting. And I see them as interesting for reasons well beyond the formation of a nonprofit, right? The strength of a community, the strength of a for-profit, all kinds of possibilities there. In your Nueva Vida example, you talked about how you're really tapping the talents across that community. With a boot camp, you're empowering people to think in terms of, I could start a nonprofit business. Tell me more about the boot camp, that possibility for bringing people in who might have good ideas but have never thought of themselves as people who might start, some kind of an organization, and the kinds of things that you do to get them moving in the direction of perhaps their dreams.
Sure. Um, I'll start by just being very transparent. We are best suited to help nonprofits that are already in motion. We do have partners that help people who are on the very early stages of deciding, is a nonprofit right for me? So I will start by saying that we do often get people in our boot camps, for example, and workshops who are contemplating just what you asked, Rushton. What I love about the boot camp is our first session is called Introduction to the Nonprofit Space, right? Introduction to Nonprofits. And we lay out what is kind of previously it was known as like charity and charitable works, and how it has led for us to now call it nonprofit work. And it includes challenging people to think, what is already up and running in my community? And would it make more sense for me to pour into what is existing, or to branch out and splinter off and start anew? And sometimes the answer could be this, or it could be that. And to your point, it's about helping people understand the landscape and then make wise decisions. And so when people come to us and they're at that very leading edge, we are able to connect them, like I said, with resources. What I think CEN is totally known for, and I remember being an executive before coming here, an executive at another organization, and loving the tools. We offer things where you're like, oh my goodness, this Word document or this Excel document has my literal name on it. And in a minute it will, because I'm going to go back, I'm going to type it, I'm going to put my name on it. And I can just today start using what you have, discussed with me, what you have shared with me as leading practice. So that's how I would answer that.
Okay, excellent. Mike has a question in the chat. Do you focus more on improving processes rather than functional specifics? Both? How does that work?
Yeah, and the thing that's amazing about the team at CEN, we've been so diverse over the years, and people come with all kinds of different skills and different abilities, and we're able to leverage those. So there are times where folks come to us and they'll say, hey, I'm having trouble with fundraising. We don't know how. We've never had that muscle developed, right? So we will help them with the function and understanding like the roles and responsibilities. Who does fundraising? How do they do it? We can help to walk them through, sometimes through our consultation practice, like I mentioned. They might come to a workshop and get sort of an overview, but then, hey, they want more. They come back for consultation, and we can help concretize some of those things and make them specific to your organization so you can build that organizational memory and muscle to build a culture around, let's say, fundraising, right? Then you may have an organization that comes to us and says, hey, we're having interpersonal challenges, right? Like we worked with an organization very recently, a community foundation actually, and they asked us to come in and do work around Ideal just so they could be up and understanding of it because we really feel like, as organizations are cutting funding and things like that, particularly like in the for-profit world, we see a lot of nonprofits that are still really rooted in this work. Well, as we got there to do our consultation, we dug deeper and we realized they had an interpersonal conflict 4 years ago that they had not dealt with. And they didn't realize it, but it was still hanging over their heads and it was impeding work in 2024, right? So we were able to sort of shed light on that and help guide them through a conversation that felt productive, felt like it was secure enough, right? So that they can start progressing in the way that they see and embodying even more fully those ideal values that they wanted to. Yeah.
Very cool. Let's do one more question before we wind down the recording. So in working with so many different nonprofits, you're seeing lots of different business models. You're seeing lots of different kind of passions for improving communities, and you're probably seeing a lot of innovative ideas as well. Is there I know that CEN is really good about getting information out about different opportunities. You guys put on workshops that your members, get a chance to like take part in and benefit from. Is there something related to identifying innovative possibilities in what you as a nonprofit or an community organization might do in a way that allows them to essentially tell their stories more effectively?
Hmm. So how are we able to help organizations to innovate so that the
Yeah.
storytelling feels like it is
It identifies distinctions in a way that can attract support and
mhm.
that kind of thing.
Sure, sure. Uh, Honestly, I'm going to point to the work that we do around mission, vision, and values.
Okay.
A lot of the times when we work closely with organizations, we're thinking about who are you as an org? What's your current mission? Does it represent today for you? If your organization's 100 years old, is it still where you want to be? We challenge folks and we support folks in taking like holding that mirror up and taking a real look at like who are we, who do we want to be, where do we see ourselves going.
Mm.
And so we look at mission, we look at vision, and we think about values. And because ideal is so strong in what we do, we're able to talk about CEN's journey in rooting its work in ideal. Some folks get inspired by that and they incorporate it into their own values, and others, it's just like I said, holding up that mirror and they're like, okay, who are we? What are our values? And we're able to then have conversations, have do the work with them to understand what steps, one foot in front of the other, really espouse those values. And that's where the innovation comes from. It allows you to be able to identify opportunities for, programming, opportunities for funding, opportunities for collaboration and partnership. Because when you're clear on who you are and clear on the work of your organization, those things kind of rise to the top with better clarity. Yeah.
That makes sense. Very, very cool. All right. Well, what we'll do is we'll wind things down, and at the very end, I'll hand it back to you for a final comment. But all of you who have joined us today to find out a little bit more about this organization, about the stories that they tell, thank you. I hope that you are enjoying the series of programs that we put out, highlighting all kinds of ways that people in small groups and in big companies and through all sorts of innovation might be able to make their communities far, far better. If you are a Rotarian, make sure you let us know you are here, right? You can do that a couple of ways. There's an attendance form just a little bit farther down the SiliconValleyRotary.com page. And at the very bottom, you can also let us know what you thought. What is it in these ideas that really struck you? What's your takeaway? There may be other elements of our meeting that you'd like to speak to as well. You may actually be quite interested in being part of organizations like Rotary that are dedicated to serving their communities in a way that allows you to build friendships and professional networks and and really kind of feed that piece of your soul, as we like to think about it. So, with that, I'd like to hand it back to our speaker, Shana, for the final word. Shana, thank you again for taking time to share CEN's vision and work with the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. What would you like for people to have clearly in mind as they finish watching the recording?
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you for letting me talk about CEN. And in the spirit of what you just said, you mentioned being a part of organizations like Rotary, and I look at, the work that you all do for the community is very akin to what we do and what we support at CEN. So I would love to invite each person who's listening to think about how can you get involved in your community? Is there a way to go deeper into the Rotary's work? Is there a way to think about how you individually or how your Rotary space might support nonprofits in your vicinity, right? And I would just like to leave us today by saying, please join CEN in supporting nonprofit leaders and creating spaces for them to step into their own power through continued learning. And all of that will better serve our communities. And, we're constantly being asked as nonprofits to do more with less, which makes the work incredibly challenging. And your contribution to CEN means that we can help develop and sustain leaders so that they can continue to fully show up and make a difference every single day in the lives of their communities and beyond, and to help the nonprofit sector to thrive. And when you invest in CEN, you are nourishing the entire community. So thank you very much. If you wanted to stay in touch with us, I put it up on the screen. We are at cen.org. If you would like more information about, workshops and whatnot, cen.org/calendar. If you want to know about our impact, cen.org/impact. We have our impact report that gives you some annual and ongoing stats about what we do.
Wonderful. Thank you again. And everyone, we will see you next week.